Well, hello, and welcome to my latest video. Not a new hat, but you may not have seen it before. It's a hat I bought in Amsterdam. Went to Amsterdam with my wife last year, had a very pleasant 4 days there. And while I was there, I bought this hat because I was offered a bit part as an extra in Peaky Blinders. Yes, Peaky Blinders. Is that how they say it? Peaky Blinders. Set in Birmingham, I believe, during the war. Or was it between the wars? Or was it after the war? I can't remember. Anyway, I never watched it. And so I don't know if they actually used my bit where I was an extra. I was had a small part. I was beaten to death by 92 thugs. But I'm not sure whether they left me on the cutting room floor either before or after the filming. But there you go. What are we doing today? We are doing what I call a cycle clinic. Yes, Julian's cycle clinic, or Julian's question and answer sessions. Now, on my videos, occasionally people leave a question, and sometimes I get round to answering the questions in the comment section, and sometimes I can't be bothered, so I don't do it. But what I thought I ought to do was a video giving an opportunity to those people who have asked a question, and I will respond. I've invited them all into my garage, so they are over there. They're behind the camera, but if you'd like to wave to them, hello everybody, yes, they're there, and they're going to ask their question one by one, but you won't be able to hear them because they've got a microphone, so I'm going to ask the question for them. So the first one is, I've got them written down on a piece of paper here just in case I can't remember what they said. First one is from Alberto Romero. Welcome, Alberto. And Alberto says, puncture inserts, are they worth it? Well, if he'd watched my video about the Tannus inserts, he would have a pretty good idea about puncture inserts, and that was an unboxing. So have I given a recent update? I thought I had actually in one of my videos. So Alberto, I'm afraid I'm going to have to say you're going to have to look through my videos and find the response to that one, but that's not very helpful, is it? So I will give you a response. I bought the Tannus inserts and I put them into my 40mm IRC tubeless tyres, not set up tubeless, with tubes. And did they work? Well, I didn't get any punctures. I have subsequently decided that they were too heavy just for normal riding, so I took them off and I've now just got ordinary 35mm Pirelli Cinturato tyres with tubes. When I decide, or if I decide, to do actual gravel riding and I need the added bonus or benefit of what I think are real puncture resistance, then I will put the Tannus inserts back in. So do you need them for normal riding? No. Are they useful in certain circumstances? I would say yes. Hope that answers your question, Alberto. Mick S says, is that a Wahoo spittoon? And I think what Mick was referring to was this metal bowl with this liquid that you can see in the bottom. Now, I used to be a very heavy smoker, and I do still bring up phlegm. This not very nice, but Mick did ask the question. I do bring up rather disgusting coloured phlegm, particularly when I'm on the turbo and I'm putting out a lot of watts. And I used to spit on the floor, which annoyed the hell out of my wife. I can't understand why. I thought it was a pretty normal activity, frankly, especially with the turbo set up in the study. But anyway, she didn't like it. So she went and bought me, or she ordered for me on the Tinternet, this Wahoo, which is titanium, by the way. It's a titanium spittoon. She wouldn't tell me how much it cost, but I checked the bank statement. It was £199.99p. Can you imagine that? And I've been using it for a few months now, so you can see I haven't filled it up. She said when I filled it up, she'll empty it and clean it. So the Wahoo spittoon, highly recommended to those of you who are aficionados of the turbo activity. Gerald Kramer says, do you follow a script? Well, what do you think? Do you think all this nonsense just comes out of my mouth, ready formed? I spend weeks on a script. I spend months on a script. And once the video I did about 7 reasons not to buy a gravel bike. That script took me 9 months. 9 months. It was honed and it was edited and it was revised, and I sent it to half a dozen of my regular viewers for their input, and they made comments on it. And then, having done the script, my wife has to stand over there behind the camera, hello darling, and she holds up the various bits of paper. It's a bit like this, not this bit of paper obviously, because this is the one I'm using because it's got all the questions on it. She holds up the bits of paper like a kind of moving teletype, like Piers Morgan or Susanna Reid do on Good Morning Britain. So she goes like that. You see, she moves it up slowly, and I read through it, and then she drops it behind you. You can't hear that because it's not picked up by the microphone. She drops the page behind her so I can move on to the next page of the script. So that's why it comes out fairly naturally. I occasionally throw in the odd and so it makes it look like I'm making it up as I go along. But believe you me, there is effort that goes into these scripts. So Gerald, hope that answers your question, my friend. Rick H. Rick H doesn't seem to have a surname. Could be the same surname as me, and perhaps he's embarrassed about it. Don't be embarrassed about your surname, Rick. If you're not embarrassed about your first name, why be embarrassed about your second name? Unless, of course, your surname is actually H. Wasn't there a character in that band Steps called H? I wonder if Rick H is a relative, or maybe Rick H is the H from Steps. Rick H says, can we hang the feces bags from trees and bushes at head height as some dog walkers do? I think what Rick is referring to is when I talk about bike packing, the knowledgeable bike packers amongst you will know that you have a sleep system, and you have an eating system, and you have a poo system. And your poo system is that you carry with you special feces bags that you do your business in, and you take those bags home with you and dispose of them in the normal way. You can put them down the waste disposal unit if you have a waste disposal unit in your flat, or you can put them in your neighbour's rubbish bin. They wouldn't put them in your own rubbish bin. You put them in your neighbour's rubbish bin, particularly if they're elderly or you don't like them very much. And should you hang them at head height so that people walk along are going to bump their heads on your bags of feces? No, of course you shouldn't. And when he says, as some dog walkers do, is he suggesting that dog walkers poo in the open air and they leave their feces hanging on trees? Surely not. I've never seen a dog walker do that. They don't do it. Riker Vorton says, have you had bad experiences with camping? And I think he's concerned that occasionally I talk about bike packing and camping, and I kind of shiver. What is the word? Shiver. That's it. I shrivel and shiver, or I shriver and shrivel. Yes, because I don't like to go camping. Have I had a bad experience as a child? Did my parents take me out camping and then leave in the middle of the night, and I woke up in the morning, the tent was there but they were all gone? It's like an Icelandic movie, isn't it? You imagine those. You're in Iceland, obviously, Icelandic murder, true detective thing. You're in Iceland, and you're in the ice floes, and you've been camping, and it's that's like that blue light. And we've got that beautiful furniture, obviously, in the Scandinavian furniture. My wife said to me yesterday, is Iceland part of Scandinavia? And I said, well, to all intents and purposes, yes, because it's got that kind of Scandinavian feel. But whether you probably wouldn't call Iceland part of Scandinavia. So you're out in Iceland, and you're on the ice floes, and you're in your tent, and it's cold, and there is a ghostly blue light, and then a big Icelandic man with a big beard. They're all weightlifters, aren't they? They're very, very good at lifting heavy things, Icelandic people. I'm not quite sure why. Perhaps they lift up blocks of ice. And I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this. So you're camping in Iceland, and you leave your bag of feces in the ice floe, and of course it freezes. So then later campers come along in the summer, where it is 25 hours of daylight, I believe, and the sun never sets, and the ice melts, and all you can see dotted around are little bags of feces. Some are Assos bags, some are Castelli bags, some are DHB bags, some are Le Col bags, some are Raffa bags. You get the picture. All these special little bags of feces that people have left behind. So have I had bad experiences with camping? Absolutely, which is why I have no intention of ever going bike packing. Rick Harris says, so now I don't need to spend £180 on a bike fit. I'm not here, Rick Harris, I wonder if Rick Harris and Rick H are the same person. But if they are, why would Rick Harris not call himself Rick H? And if Rick H is Rick Harris, why does he call himself Rick H and not Rick Harris? If you want to spend £180 on a bike fit, I am not the person to tell you not to do it. Your wife, your spouse, your significant other, your parents, your grandchildren, your bank manager, your employer, they may be the people to say whether you should spend £180 on a bike fit or not. I am not that person. If you think that you cannot find a drain anywhere else closer to your home, and you want to pour your money down the drain in a bike shop and get a proper bike fit, well then please do so. If you'd rather get a bike fit on the cheap, and you sound like a bit of a cheapskate to me, Rick Harris, I've got to say, then I suggest you watch my video about how to do a bike fit, and that way you'll be able to do it for not very much money. Kirill Otten says, how big is your flying carpet and how fast can you go? I think he's referring to this particular, and it's not a carpet, by the way, it's a tapestry. It's an 18th century French tapestry which I bought on eBay. It came with a notification of genuosity, so I knew it was genuine. It had been weaved or woven by members of the French royal family in the 18th century, and it was £49 plus postage. So it's not a real flying carpet. I'm sorry, Kirill, but I think you've been watching too much Aladdin. Flying carpets are not real. They don't actually exist. They only happen in the movies. This is just a tapestry. It's a rather nice tapestry that is on the wall of my garage as a background for these videos. Alberto Romero, who describes himself as a bitter Cuban. We all wanted a bit of Cuban inside us at some stage or other. I fancy a fat, bitter Cuban cigar that I could smoke in my garage. And Alberto says, don't mind if I call you Alberto, do you? Should my drop bar be parallel to the ground? Alberto seems overly concerned about the state of his drop bar for a bitter Cuban. I think he referred to himself as a bitter Cuban after my comments about Che Guevara, and I think I've got to say, Alberto, put it behind you, mate. Put it behind you. I mean, we're talking 1959. You've got to be of a certain age to remember when the Cuban Revolution took place. I know Che Guevara rather messed up your life, but move on. Perhaps a little bit of therapy, or maybe Wikipedia. Just read up about it. Put it behind you, mate. Should his drop bar be parallel to the ground? Yes. So hope that answer satisfies you, Alberto Romero. Somebody who calls himself Phantom Racer. I love the names people give themselves on YouTube. I mean, is there a reason why you don't want to use your real name on YouTube? I imagine that there is, and I have a reason, because Julian Hutchings, as you can imagine, is not my real name. Would anybody actually call themselves Julian Hutchings on YouTube if that was their real name? Probably not. Phantom Racer says, what if you're commuting on ice over a frozen river? What tyre pressure should you use? I think Phantom Racer was watching my video about ideal tyre pressures, and he obviously lives in the frozen north, or even, why you always talk about the frozen north, but you don't tend to talk about the frozen south. Whereas if you go further south, or if you go farther south enough, it is frozen, just as it is frozen up in the north. Interesting point there. The tyre pressure that you should use, Phantom, is no pressure at all. What you should do is take your tyres off and just ride on your rims, because if you ride on your rims on ice on a frozen river, you'll find that the metal of the rims will give you the ideal amount of grip on that frozen surface. So a little tip there, take the tyres off, don't use them at all. Anthony Baxendale says, if I ride on the M25, should I have motorway pressure in my tyres or should I have car park pressure? I think Anthony Baxendale fancies himself as a little bit of a wit there, but a very funny question and a very good one. And the M25, for those people who are not in Great Britain, is a motorway, and cyclists are not allowed to ride on the motorway. So I think you're trying to catch me out there, Anthony, and it didn't work. Lee Sheraton asks, when I get on my bike, because I'm a newbie cyclist, do I sit facing the handlebar or facing the rear? Now, many of you will make fun of Lee Sheraton and think that he sounds a little bit silly and he doesn't know what he is talking about. But interestingly enough, as you will know, Leonardo da Vinci sketched an early bicycle in his notebooks, and Leonardo sketched the rider facing not the rear, and this is where the confusion comes from. Leonardo was an early adopter of the bicycle, but the bicycle wasn't fully formed in those days. So the early versions of the bicycle, and you can see this in engravings from the 18th and the 19th centuries, you'll see in the early days, cyclists, they didn't face the rear, but the bicycle was set up in a different way. So they held the handlebars behind them, like that. And the pedals, they turned that way, going what you think is going backwards, but for them it was going forwards. And they steered like this with the handlebars behind them. So Lee Sheraton's question is not as silly as it first appears. It is actually very sensible. So congratulations, Lee. You've come up with something that most of the people who watch this channel had never even thought of. So well done. Antonio Barros. Could Antonio be Spanish? Could he be Mexican? Could he be Latin America? Latin American, that's not really a country, is it? Latin America and Central America, is that the same place? Or rather, is it the same collection of countries? I know it's not the same place. Says, I'm taller in centimetres than I am in inches. Which measurement should I use? And I think Antonio is talking about doing his bike fit. Well, here in England, Antonio, we used to have a measurement which was called a fathom. And a fathom was 6 feet. It doesn't exist anymore because 6 feet no longer exists in England. But what I suggest you do is, if you measure yourself in fathoms, all right, divide by 72, that will give you your height in inches. If you then divide that by 3 and multiply it by 2.27, that will give you your height in centimetres. Write both of those numbers down on your iPad. It has to be an iPad, I'm afraid. It won't work on your phone, it doesn't work on your desktop or on your other forms of computers. It has to be an iPad. I'm sorry about that. Write it down on your iPad and then put it to one side. Go to the bike shop and say, I'd like a medium, please. Right? So you buy a medium-sized bicycle. If it's too small, put the saddle up. If it's too large, put the saddle down. And that's how to do a perfect bike fit. Simon Page is also concerned about bike fits because he says, will my bike fit me in January? Now, Simon is concerned about what happens on January the 1st when the United Kingdom leaves the European Union. Yes, folks, we are leaving the European Union. You remember that great Times headline, Fog in the Channel, continent isolated? That's what it will be on January the 1st, when we become an independent country and we can make all our own laws and we can have a real positive, brilliant government in charge of us. We can have people like Boris Johnson, Dominic Raab, Michael Gove, Nadeem Zahawi, Priti Patel, Alok Sharma, Mick Hancock. Is it Mick Hancock? Mick Hancock? Michael Hancock. Maurice Hancock. Matt Hancock. We can have the top team in charge of our destiny. Yes, no longer will we be ruled by these faceless, European, useless bureaucrats who have ground us down and removed all of our wealth over the years. We are going to get back to the #1 political team in the universe. So, I say, well done. But Simon says, will my bike fit me in January? Well, I'm afraid it's not going to fit you in January. If you bought a bike made by a European manufacturer, or that has been sold in the European Union at any time in the last 10 years, you will not be able to ride it from January the 1st on British roads. It will be British bicycles on British roads, just as it will be British cars on British roads. Now, I, for one, I'm looking forward to the time on January the 1st where I'm no longer subject to being driven off the road by BMWs, by Mercedes, by Audi A4s, by Volkswagen Golfs, by all these other cars. I'm looking forward to being driven off the road by cars that are manufactured in Jersey or the Isle of Wight, or is Jersey part of Britain? I'm not sure it is. I'm looking forward to cars being manufactured on the Isle of Sheppey and then being driven around their roads. And if I'm going to be forced into a ditch by a car, I want it to be a British car driven by a British driver. Yes, I want my legs to be broken. I want lacerations. I want broken pelvises. I want a damaged bike. I want brain damage. I want all of my injuries to be British injuries on British roads done by British cars. So, there you are, Simon. Rackgen Weaver, W-E-V-E-R, says all this guy says is utter nonsense. Well, Rackgen. Well, a name like Rackgen Weaver says all I say is utter nonsense. Well, all I can say, Rackgen, is you missed out somewhere. You haven't been paying attention, have you, Rackgen? You missed the nuggets of wisdom hidden amongst these nuggets of wisdom. So you're going to have to watch all these videos over again. And do remember, Rackgen, and do remember everybody else, when you watch my videos, you raise money for the Vine Food Bank, which is in Croydon. And finally, today, Stephen Larese, or Larese, L-A-R-E-S-E, says, are these real Strava challenges? And I think Stephen was watching my video about a number of new Strava challenges which were released to me before they were released to DC Lama and GP Rainmaker. And he wants to know if they're genuine challenges. Well, Stephen, you may have missed the competition or the challenge that Strava set for a series of new challenges. And I entered that challenge because Strava challenged me to come up with some new challenges. And I sent them all in and Strava selected them. But, I'm sorry to say, they then had another challenge to say, which one of Julian's challenges do you think should become actual challenges? And all the votes they got said none of them. So I'm sorry to say the challenges were there. They were up for about a week. I signed up for all of them. I got all of the virtual badges. And if you look around, I have the only Julius Caesar challenge doll that Strava produced. All the rest of them had to be pulped and destroyed and returned to Taiwan, I'm afraid. So if you want that Julius Caesar with the knives in the back challenge, well, I'm going to put it on eBay, put in a bid, make it a high bid, you might win. So they were Strava challenges, but I'm afraid they're no longer there. There may be a new Strava challenge competition for challenges coming up fairly soon, and I challenge all of you to come up with some Strava challenges of your own, because why go in for all this Strava nonsense? If you've seen this new world that they've now released on Zwift, which is called Nostravia, no Strava, all the rides that you do will not appear on Strava. And all the rides that I do now no longer appear on Strava. So if you see anything on Strava under the name of Julian Hutchings, it's not me. It is somebody else who is using my name in the same way as it's somebody else called Julian Hutchings who's been making these videos. So you don't have to watch them because it's not me. So, hope you've enjoyed that question and answer session. I will be having another question and answer session shortly. So if you do want to add a particular question to this video, then you may be lucky, because the Strava challenges, it may be picked up in the next video and you'll get the answer you've been looking for. So, thanks for watching and see you next time.